Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 76 of The Ray Bunch. We have a great show today, and I know I start every show like that, but hey, I'm an eternal optimist, so it is going to be a great show because we have Mark Timberlake on today, and we're going to be talking about communities and tribes. Are they interchangeable? Does one give birth to the other, and why do we care anyway? So without much ado, I'm going to introduce Mark, and let me just see if I can get something here, because Mark is a real cool guy. And I followed Mark for a long time on Google+, but then, well, a year or so, we kind of like drifted apart. And I didn't know why until I took a peek at his community, and he's been extremely busy with the community. He's got a super community. We're going to give you the links. The links are in the details, but we're going to talk about that more. Again, the reason I brought Mark up on the show is, first of all, Scott suggested him, but also because he knows how to build a community. He just hit the big 700 mark today. So congratulations, Mark. And we're going to talk about that and what it takes to build a community, why you should build a community, and where does tribes fit in that? You know. And so, Mark, you want to say hi, quick hi, and a few words?
Hi, everybody. Obviously, thanks for the introduction. Mark Timberlake. I run a marketing company called SME Heroes. Been on Google Plus for a long time and been kicking around, and I've got a community that I launched on Boxing Day in December, and it's up to 700 members now already, so that's pretty good.
That's excellent. Congratulations. And Mark, your community is, I just wanted the way you describe the community is really cool. I like that. It says, Mark, he enables collaborative marketing efforts and help each other learn what marketing works and what doesn't. And that word collaborative, I think, is essential here in the community. It's the idea of people doing things together. And I know how difficult it is to build a community. I have a private one, and I have to say, I'm not the best. I have to work at it. I have to be more Mark-like on building that community. But as Mark knows, it takes a lot of time, and I think it helps if you have people, those few people that help with the community. So we'll talk about that more. I want to introduce the panel, and we're going to start with BL. BL, how are you today? You have to unmute me.
Okay, I'm fine. I couldn't find my mouse. My mouse was disappearing. I'm fine, and it's a beautiful day in New York, and the cherry trees are blooming, and the sky is blue, and it's gorgeous.
Oh, well, great. Spring in New York. I want to be there.
Yeah.
I'll come knocking on your door and crash on your couch.
Anytime.
That'd be super. While I have you on, I just want to say to everybody, if you haven't caught BL's show, and actually just give it a little plug, BL.
Well, David Erickson and I do the Beyond Social Media show on Saturdays at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, and we cover the best and the worst news in digital communications in the past week, and some shiny new objects, and some stats that might be helpful. And we're coming up on show number 93 this week.
That makes BL a lot older than I am. So, okay. Jess, how are things in Seattle? And Jess and Bailey, how are things in Seattle?
Yes, this is Bailey. She is going to be my sidekick today. Things actually are great. It's warm enough here. Not only do we have blooms on our cherry trees like BL does, I have a wasp or a yellow jacket in my bathroom, and I was told by my husband, who's out of town, to go look at its legs and find out how long its legs are to know if we might be having a nest built or if it's just some stray that found its way into our bathroom. How's that for crazy?
That's crazy. And also, Jess, along with Scott, have a show. Just a couple words on this show, Jess?
Absolutely. We take conversations and dig into the stories behind the amazing people who do really awesome things in their work every single day, and what drives them and what's their passion, and talk about subjects that aren't necessarily related directly to business, but definitely apply to it.
Great, thanks. And the name of the show?
Oh yeah, the Jess plus Scott and you plus you show.
Thanks a lot. Scotty, good morning. How are things in Seattle? What's the weather like?
Well, you know, Mark might not realize this, but I'm known for having a constant weather forecast every week. And right now it's a little bright outside, but things will look up because they say there's going to be rain in the forecast for later today.
And I can say, yes, I also heard that this morning. There will be rain here.
Okay, now that we have the important stuff out of the way, let's talk about our subject. I want to go because in researching this, and I did some research because although there's a lot of talk about communities and tribes on Google Plus, especially because they're so big here. As I say, I've noted that some people are sort of getting tribes and communities mixed up a bit. So I checked out something. I found something by Gary Vee. Now Gary Vee, as you all know, he has fans everywhere, and he's very smart. But he scares me. He's just so aggressive. But he does say smart things. And one of the things he was talking about, actually, it's a new video on his Facebook page, and I quoted it, I think, in somewhere, is do you want to go wide or go deep? And he says that he wants to go deeper into his community and give back to the people who are his fans. And I think that's sort of the core of why people want communities, right? They want to go beyond just grabbing and looking at followers and getting new followers all the time. You want to start, okay, whoa, I mean, that's just crazy. That's a circle, a hamster circle that you're just going to go around and round and round and round in. You want to do is grab those people that have something in common with you, who look to you to either help them or share ideas with, and build that community. So instead of like a lot of people, you just want to go into fewer people, which is kind of the traditional sales funnel, right? So Mark, can I ask you, when did you decide and why did you decide to start your community, or the Udemy community? You're muted. Okay.
Yeah, I think basically I got involved in Udemy, and obviously I understand the concepts of a community, and I produced a Udemy course. So, we come from a video production and a marketing background. So I knew that people would need to know how to make a course, but also I knew that they would need to know how to market a course. So I created a course. That's one of 11 courses I've got, but I created a course around that, and I went on Google Plus, and I could not believe there was not a Udemy community on there, and that was it. Once I saw the opportunity, I set the community up.
For those who don't know what that is, what Udemy is, could you explain it?
Udemy is a third-party platform. It's an open platform where anybody could submit training courses which can go into the marketplace and be sold either by yourself or in partnership with Udemy. And at the moment, they've got over, I believe it's 8 million enrolled students on the site, so it's a massive marketplace. It's similar to lynda.com, but it's a lot more open, and you can put your stuff up there. Lynda very sort of closed, and it's a massive revolution when it comes to online education. So if you've got anything you want to teach, you want to be looking at Udemy, especially if you're looking to monetize your expertise and your knowledge.
One of the things I like what you just said, and I'm going to go to a comment soon from Jeremy Murphy that BL brought up, is the fact that you went and you looked and you saw that there was no other communities there for Udemy. And I think that's probably a very important point to make, is because, as you know, if you skim through the communities on Google Plus, there's a lot of duplication. And one of the shows we did recently was finding your niche. And perhaps, do you agree? Do you think it's important to be unique, to offer something that that everyone doesn't offer?
I think it's absolutely essential. If you're going to have a successful community, it's got to be niche. It can be on the same topic as someone else's community. That doesn't necessarily, define niching. But what you're doing in that community, how you're helping people, you've got to really, really niche it. And I think that's one of the major reasons people struggle setting up communities. They try and be too broad. I could have started a marketing community, and then I'm in competition with 1,000 other communities on Google Plus.
Right.
So it's about really niching. But now what I help Udemy instructors market themselves. So it's still a marketing community, but it's niched to Udemy instructors or online video educators and entrepreneurs, people who want to sell online training. And that's the thing. So it's a marketing community, but it's very niche.
I'm going to bring up a comment from BL, from Jeremy Murphy. Good morning. Good morning, Jeremy. Is it possible to have a tribal community? Not sure these are mutually exclusive categories. Before we answer that, let's actually ask the big question. What is the difference between a community and a tribe? I'm going to just in researching again, I found a couple of things, and I'm not going to give you my bias, but I'm going to just tell you what I found. Tribes are passion from the leaders and the followers. Communities are gathering places. Most online tribes come from communities, but not everybody in the community will be a tribe member. I'll put that out there, you guys. Who wants to respond to that? I'll give the last bit. Okay, go ahead.
I'm happy to sort of, for me, communities and tribes, I'm a big fan of community. I'm not a big fan of tribe. And I know we briefly discussed this, Ray, but for me, tribe is about everybody looking up and following one person, and that for me is quite negative. You know, for me, community, and that's my understanding of tribe. That might not be everyone's definition, but when I think of tribe, that's what comes to my mind. It's like, here's a superstar, let's all follow him. Whereas a community for me is people collaborating, working together, supporting one another, and getting mutual benefit out of mutual relationships. And that for me is much more powerful when it comes to a marketing concept. And what I tend to see as well is that when I see people chasing influencers, for instance, or this idea you must trace influence, that for me is the tribe psychology. If I get in with the right group, if I get in with the right in crowd, they're going to promote me and I'm going to succeed. And that's looking up all and chasing, whereas community for me is looking down. It's, you know, you're the head of community, and it's looking people and lifting them up, you know, level with you or even higher. And that for me is really valuable. So I really.
Well, I agree completely with what you're saying. I wonder how you're going about keeping a community of 700 from becoming chaotic, because you are doing that, and I wonder, you know, what kind of time is that taking, what kind of input? It's not you alone, I hope, and, you know, how do you go about actually managing that, because you still do have to manage it, right?
Yeah, it's very simple. You have very, very strong roles. We've got a very strong family-friendly policy, and the other thing is make sure people have an outlet. Sometimes communities can be too restrictive. Like for instance, in our community, if you want to promote your course, there's a section where you go and promote your course. So give people an outlet in the community to do the things they're naturally going to do. As soon as you try and stop people doing the things they're naturally going to want to do, they're going to be restricted and they're going to fight the community. And so
oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were finished.
Yeah, no, I think that was the sort of main point there, is give people a natural outlet within the behavior, the accepted behavior standards of the community. So don't stop people doing too much, because then they don't feel like they can contribute.
Well, and I'm thinking about tribes and community, and I look at them a little bit differently. I think there's definitely something about a community, and I look at a tribe a little bit more like a network, where I might be part of a tribe that has a common mission of supporting the business owners in that tribe. I might be part of a tribe where we all have rallied around something in our life that we have commonality that we're passionate about. And I know when I'm in those, when I'm in them, I'm not looking toward somebody. I just am part of something that is very, I almost would say, a little more niche than just a community, because even within a community that is very niched around a product, there are going to be people who do video production. There are going to be people who tend toward the marketing messages. There are going to be people who are tending toward other areas of what it means to be around that common niche of the community. And everybody can be together in community, but then there are these little tribes that are working possibly in tandem as well.
If I could just bring something in, because my idea of a tribe, and I think Mark hit it, and I understand why Mark doesn't like the term, because it does it does say that someone is the leader, someone's the chief, and there's people under who are following him or her. It depends on perhaps the strategy. To get back to what Jeremy's question was in terms of being mutually exclusive, as I say, I don't think they're exclusive in the sense that a community, you can grow a tribe within the community, and the way I see it, it depends. If you build a community as a marketer, as a brand, for instance, as part from like a hobby or something, say you build a community as a brand, and you build it around interest around what you sell or what you do. For instance, okay, I'm a social media consultant, Sorry. Okay. And I know that's a bad word right now. But I'm stupid enough to put a community out there saying social media. Okay. And say in that community. So obviously it's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's so multi-layered. But my idea for building that community is to find people that need help with social media. So, and I want to build say a webinar. So I build the community, and I find people who are contributing to it, who are active in it, and usually that's like maybe 5% or so of the community. And you start interacting with them, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh, you're building this webinar. Let me help you. I'll promote it on my page, or maybe we'll do a sponsorship thing, or whatever." And these people sort of start becoming your tribe. They're the people that are going to propel your mission or what you want to do with the community forward. That's how I see a tribe. It's a small group of people who basically bought into what you want to do and help you move that forward. But I understand, Mark, what you're saying as well. There is that idolatry. There's when someone is in a community and all of a sudden they become a disciple, and that's different. And we see examples of that all the time.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's your mental image of a tribe. You've almost, before you discuss it, you've almost got to describe the picture that comes to your mind, because we think in pictures. And for me, a tribe is the leader and everyone following along. That's my concept of a tribe. So when I talk about tribe, I'm talking about that. Whereas I see a community, that's a group of people living together. It's more democratic and people working together. So when we come to tribe and community, sometimes I think, when Jessica was just talking about tribe, she described a different view of a tribe than what I had. So she had a different mental image of a tribe. So I think that's sometimes why it's difficult to communicate about issues like tribe and community, because the definitions can vary so much. So when I talk about tribe, that's what I mean. It's that, one strong leader and everyone's sort of like, I'm not a big fan of that particular type of.
Someone has said that the definition of a healthy community is that whoever set up can walk away and that community is still going to exist and do things together. That would be the opposite of a tribe, I'd imagine.
Right? Yeah,
I
would agree. And a good community, in the early days, the leader has to stimulate the community, but a good community over time will start gaining its own mass as more and more people come in. And there's reasons why they do that, and if we understand those reasons, why people will contribute in a community building actually becomes much more powerful.
I've taken. I'm sorry, Scotty. Go ahead.
Well, okay. Just a moment, and then it'll be your turn, P.L. Thank you. What I'm hearing you're saying, Mark, is that tribes might have a leader, but its communities have a facilitator. And then maybe there's a third group of people. You've talked about when you have an initiative, try and get 20 people who will be able to rally to your defense in whatever it is that you're trying to promote on social media, that they will be there for you and that they'll promote it, and then it's kind of concentric circles. So those 20 people that you talked about, that's not a tribe, and if not a tribe, what is it?
I would say that the core. What you just said there was, I wouldn't actually put it that way slightly. I'd change it slightly and say, what you've got is, when you get a community, you're going to get a core group of people that start interacting. Your core responsibility as a community leader is to promote them. Whereas we tend to approach with the methodology of, let's find 12 people that are really going to promote me. Okay, and that's the wrong way around, because if you look at it, okay, so let's find a core group of people that are really going to contribute to the community, let me help them succeed, they're naturally going to then want to help you to succeed because they see you're actually helping them. And that's a core principle. It's not about what you're going to get out of the 12 people, it's about what can you do to the 12 core people, what can you do for them, how can you help promote them, how can you lead them to somewhere successful, and then they can contribute back.
Those are really good points, and I've taken classes and studied with Howard Rheingold, and he calls the people in the community co-learners, and as his courses and communities grow, people always emerge who will lead areas of it, and he just encourages that, but there still is a leader. There always is a leader, and you're a great one, by the way.
Yeah.
There you go, Mark.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I jumped, here we go. We're talking about entrepreneurs and maybe single owner or small businesses that are, and we might be talking about facilitating customers and something in their realm, but I'm looking at large companies. I'm thinking, look at Coca-Cola or Pepsi or even Apple. I think that they've got both that really make that brand coexist, and people show up the way they want to show. They want to innovate around it. They want to contribute and teach around it. They want to be part of the movement and go to a store or an event where one of these brands are at. I mean, I was reading an article the other day, and I think if I remember the stat correctly, this might not be exactly correctly, but shopping malls where an Apple store is actually lifts sales of every other store in the mall by 10%, just because they're there. Now, how does that fit into this idea of community and tribes? Because I think that there's a branding element that might come into this somehow, and a business strategy piece.
Well, we're going to get to that because I want to ask basically what's the advantage and why would you want to build a community? Why would you want to start a community? And we're not talking just Google Plus here, anywhere. Why would you want to do that? What's the advantages? And I just want to, because BL, you had this earlier, but I want to bring it back. Kristen's point on reciprocity. And I think everybody has to have a feeling they're going to get something out of something, right? I mean, if I join your community, what am I going to get out of it? It's not in a selfish way, but there has to be something. I mean, otherwise, people have so many hours in the day to invest. And I think reciprocity is a huge thing. And I mean, this Triber, right? The blogging platform where everybody sort of says the idea here is I'll join that, but I'm expecting that you're going to share my post if I share yours. Not to say that it has to be tit for tat, but there is that feeling. So if you're going to, what's the advantage to you as a business person on creating a community?
I think it comes back to that thing. It's everyone in the community benefits from the relationships. So it's not just about you're doing something for everybody and you're not getting anything out of it yourself, because there is thing in there. I'm getting traffic to my courses. People are taking my courses. They're seeing that. They're appreciating what I've got to say, and they're choosing in that instance whether or not to buy my product. So I'm gaining from the community. It's not there's no gain for me. But if ever people can gain from the same community, then that will think. But Jessica made a really good point. I just wanted to point out what she was talking with the Apple thing. When you bring the strength of the community is not necessarily that that I'm in there. That's not the strength of the community. The strength of the community is you bring Apple in, or you bring McDonald's in, or you bring someone in who's got expertise and knowledge, and they start contributing in the community. It grows. What I've seen in a lot of Google Plus communities is as soon as somebody else comes in, the leader can be threatened, and then rather than let that person start expressing themselves and benefiting from the community, you can get shut down very quickly. And I think if the more people you bring in that have got influence, that have got a passion, the better for the community, because now you're going to get a lot more strength in that community. And I think that comes back to that idea of tribe and community again, to be honest, right?
How much? Because people are there for one thing. They want to learn about the Udemy platform and get points. How much sharing between community members are there? Sharing tips and knowledge and that.
What you mean in terms of engagement?
Yeah.
Yeah, the community members, there's always a core, and that's the thing most people don't realize. With a good community, there's probably a core of 10 to 20 people that actually drive the community. Once you've got that core of 10 to 20, then you'll start to see, and you'll soon figure out who they are. You'll start to see that thing. We're still a young community, so I'm not happy yet with the amount of collaborative marketing going on between people. It's growing all the time. It's getting there. One example here is Scott, speaking to you, inviting me on. Scott's a member of the community, and it's starting to grow. So one of the things for me is encouraging people to actually collaborate together, to work on Hangouts and to work on different things. And once that gets going and that gets stimulated, then it grows. So we've got good engagement in there. People are talking to one another. They're doing Hangouts, podcasts together, all sorts of stuff spinning out of it. But I'm not happy yet because I want to see more. I'm greedy for that.
Before we, does anyone have any questions before? I'm going to ask Mark some very tactical questions on how to build the community. Does anyone want to approach what we've been talking about?
Well, I just wanted to bring up the point that this seems like the updated iteration of the early blogging days, you know, and to me, and I think that Mark's a perfect example of this. The more you give, the more you get, and knowledge, until it's shared, isn't going to go anywhere. It isn't going to grow. So, you know, this idea of a community is a sterling idea, but my God, the time that's involved in it. Do you sleep?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, because I'm curious about that as well, in terms of, if, you know, how does it relate back to other marketing activities, and can you leverage building a community to other business building activities at the same time? So you're, well, and maybe you can't, and if it's all time that's separate from everything else, but where we can leverage is better always, in terms of being able to do more and reach our goals that we have set for ourselves.
Yeah, I think the community should always have, there should be a product that you have.
Yeah.
I think when you have an idea of a community, there should be an end product that you can actually sell. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. And I think, you know, the community isn't there to sell that product. But if you've got a community, you actually want to get some benefit out of it because you're putting a lot of time in. But one of the quick tips I'd give people, if you've got a community, very quickly, and I did this very early on with OV, as soon as I started to see a few people emerging as engagers, and I could see that they had, you know, the right sort of attitude and behavior towards people. You know, I didn't necessarily want anyone aggressive or anything. Very firm rules, but then I very quickly found myself free moderators. Now, one of the things is that different time zones. I'm in England, you know, and I need people moderating outside of those times. But we've had very few issues, and the reason we've had very few issues is because our rules are very, very clear, and that's really, really important that people understand that. And the other thing is, it's a public community, but you have to join up to get in, so you have to be accepted.
While you're talking about those things, that's exactly the kind of thing I was going to ask you about. Very specific, detailed, tactical issues in terms of how to run a successful community. And you mentioned a couple of them. First of all, you have the gate. You have to ask permission to join. And then there's the fact that you have moderators, and especially the point about covering the different time zones. I like that. Could you give us maybe 3 or so things that you think is absolutely necessary, especially in let's say public communities for now, to start off to create a good, successful community?
Yeah, number one, use Google+. No, that's not a thing. That's not my tip. When it comes to communities, you cannot beat Google+, but that's not my tip. That's a free one. It comes back to what we've been saying. I've made some notes here, but one, niche community. Got to be niche. Number two, everyone in the community has a chance to gain from the community. Number three, make sure you promote members' activities. When someone shares a blog post, comment, read it, take time. You know, I encourage them to actually, because, you know, people are out there trying to share stuff on social media. A lot of time they don't get as much response as they would like. So engage with people, promote them. You know, we have OV community member spotlight sessions where we just take one person and we just promote that person, you know, to the wider community. So there's a strong reason, and that was free. But I want to give you one more. And there is a reason I said Google+ at the beginning. Hangouts on Air are the engine of a good community. And that's what makes Google+ so very, very special.
Well, couldn't end that one on a better note, because you totally got, you know, fans over here. This show comes from our community, so I totally understand that. It's time for our takeout. And we're going to start today. The takeout section, for those who are new, is each of the bunch share something, a link to an article or an HOA or a show, a YouTube video, about the topic that we shared today. So that's something that you can take away and sort of dig into the topic a little bit more. And today we're going to start with Scott.
Okay. Well, time is a little short, so I'll not go through the 10 steps, but there's a guest blog by Martin Shervington, How to Build a Super Tribe Using Google+. So I'll put a link to that in the comment stream, and there are just some wonderful suggestions there.
Yeah, it's a super. I remember that post. It's got like thousands or whatever of tweets, but it's an excellent post and certainly talks about the subject today for sure. Let's see, BL.
Well, I have a link to a TED Talk by Howard Rheingold in which he talks about the benefits of collaboration, which very much do apply to our conversation. And he's saying, in the old way, people competed with each other and worried about somebody stealing their ideas. And in the new way, it's part of our natural instinct to work as a group. And in our new way, we're able to use the knowledge that we have and share it to make something bigger. And that's why he talks about co-learning and the Creative Commons. And, it's a really wonderful TED Talk. And he did it in 2005 because he's really a seer. And he has seen so far ahead in terms of what was going to happen. So this is worth your 18 minutes.
Oh, I'm definitely going to check it out because I just caught the beginning of it when I grabbed that screen share. And it's interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing what he says being pre-social media to see his take on things. Great guy. This is the guy you took the course with, right?
He's been a mentor and a hero of mine since the early 90s when I came upon him, and he's just a genius.
Oh, great. Well, thanks a lot, Bill. Jessica.
Yeah, so I was doing some research for evergreen content a few shows back, and I found this one and decided I needed to save it for this show. Okay. I didn't know when this show was going to be, but it turns out to work out really well. And two reasons. One, tomorrow's Earth Day, so I'm really excited that tomorrow's Earth Day. Two, we're talking about tribes, and it's Nature Valley granola bars. In the Nature Valley granola bars, they've got these people that want this on-the-go food in a whole bunch of different ways. So what they did was they used media. So they did use digital media combined with the passion of a specific group of people within their consumer base that love to hike, that love to be outside, that like to see the outdoors, and they documented 400 different trails and 400 different parks across the U.S. And this website is available to anybody who wants PDFs or maps or pictures from any of this stuff. And so what they're doing is they're taking their brand integration, a lifestyle concept, and bringing a community that other people can benefit from together, and at the same time create a tribe around the concept of let's go be outside together. And here they can bring people together and be a central resource for hikers and adventurers.
It's a great collaboration, not only of what they're doing across the states with people and building these teams, and which gets to what we're talking about today, actually kind of almost tribe around your brand. But as a brand to do this, I think is an excellent idea. Thanks a lot. So mine today is. Let's see. I thought this was funny. If you want some fluff, go pet a bunny, which would have been appropriate probably for our Easter show. But this is from David Siteman Garland, the guy from Rise to the Top fame. But it's 12 keys to building your online community. And this guy certainly has built a dynamic and very large online community. And this goes beyond just a community in the community settings, for instance, like in Google+, but this is actually your brand community. The email list and people that you interact with and buys your products and all that. And how do you keep that moving? How do you keep that dynamic? And how do you build it? So I found this a very helpful article to read. So we'll give you the links in the event page, and I ask that you check them out. So Mark, I got to say, this was a real joy having you with us today. I learned a lot. I love your tips. I wish we had more time because you obviously know what you're doing. You have a very successful community, and you have some great ideas. People kind of struggle with it. I hear a lot of people start communities and they let them die, and it's a tough thing to do. So, kudos to you for doing such a great job, and again, thanks for joining us. Do you want to leave us with any last words?
Yeah, I just encourage people. If you want to grow a community, you grow it by helping others. That's the secret to a community. And make sure you've got the tools in place to do that.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to say anything before we go? Thanks, everybody. I much appreciate it every week. I much appreciate seeing you. Take care. Next week we have episode 77, and maybe Jess will come up with something really interesting. We'll have to see. Take care. Bye-bye until next week. Bye-bye.